So last time I did this kind of video, I was surprised as to the reaction for it. I thought that this was going to be some niche thing that would have most people unsubscribing and the other people enjoying it somewhat, but the feedback that I received for it was amazing, so I'm definitely going further into this series. That is why today we will be talking about Paladins, Templars, and Champions. And just like last time, forget any associations of mechanics or universes or game systems that you have with these classes. These are just words to describe concepts. They are system agnostic. Also, of course, leave your historical associations at the door. These are just words that describe things in secondary worlds. Do not crusade my ass for something that didn't happen in the world where I am talking about it. And also prepare for me to subvert the thing a little bit that I talk about this video, because that's what I do. Look, everybody hates Paladins. They're just do-gooders who are standing in the way of the party murder-hoboing their way across the land, leaving nothing but carnage in their wake. What are you gonna help people in need? Do quests? What are you, fucking crazy? You can't even have sex with the maidens that you rescue from the dragon, you chaste ass motherfucker. That drastic and tongue-in-cheek oversimplification of the situation encapsulates very well the issues that I have with how Paladins are usually portrayed and played. They are good, and then you have anti-Paladins sometimes, and they are evil, and that's basically the whole spectrum. There's two items, so it does not constitute even a spectrum. I do like that there's a certain variety of oaths in D&D 5th edition, but that's not enough for me. To my mind, Paladins are essentially warlocks, but they're not with demons, but with gods. They may even have a mental connection to their patron deity, much like the warlock, though personally I prefer not to play it that way. They're warriors serving a specific religion, and they are imbued with the power of the god or gods of that religion by force of sacred ritual. And of course, this can be gods plural. It also can be like an animist religion, which technically also is polytheistic, and if you have a polytheistic religion, different paladins might focus on serving different deities or saints within that religion, because the same is true about clergy. Paladins are members of the clergy. They should be well-versed in scriptures and the virtues that they are supposed to embody, and all of the restrictions and benefits that being a clergy member should apply to them. They may have a requirement of chastity or fasting, and they may have a right to lodging by pretty much any believer, or even to pass sentences depending on the status of the religion in your world. If they're not an extremely exclusive club where there's only a handful of paladins in the religion and they're super powerful, but if they're a little more common, possibly a little less powerful, then they might organize in orders just like the rest of the clergy. Depending on what you personally prefer flavor-wise, paladins could be people who have magical powers and have sort of sacrificed them to the gods in order to receive other magical powers from the gods, or they might just be regular people who have proven themselves or who have been chosen by the gods to be this special warrior that has magical powers now. Either way, the magic that they do must represent the religion that bestowed it upon them. That means, yes, healing and protection magic for a god that is all about protecting the innocent, possibly skeleton nukes, or exorcism spells, but depending on your religion, your paladin may well be able to raise the dead and do that routinely as just a virtuous thing that paladins do. Or maybe they can drink the blood of their enemies in order to gain power. Similarly, if the deity they serve demands such things, they may well engage in ritual human sacrifice, or possibly delight in torture, or hunt peasants for sport. There's a lot of religions and worldviews out there, and all of them have their righteous warriors. Optimally, you should have some mixture of positive and negative aspects in the religion, of course viewed from a, Western perspective. And the paladin will of course see all of them as good. So while you may be healing the sick, you might also be subjugating the poor. While you may drive out and destroy the demons that haunt a town, possibly also you take their youngest child and put it in the biggest house and then burn that house, because that is the sacrifice that your deity demands. In such situations especially, you could generate some very interesting internal conflict. And of course it's entirely legitimate to just play a paladin who agrees with their god on everything, But maybe they have some qualms about murdering an entire village because they didn't pay their tithe. But at that point, they're having a disagreement with a literal god who probably knows better and is also their direct boss. There could be internal strife and schisms in the religion, especially if it's one where the god isn't very proactive in doing things, or possibly where the god is entirely just absent or fictitious, but they still get the powers because that's somehow how magic works. It might be a thing that in one specific religion, when they sort of conquer an area and they capture unbelievers, and those unbelievers are magic users, they sort of force them to become paladins for their religion. And if they disobey the orders of the religion or break one of the commandments of the gods that are actually foreign to them, and probably they're going to have them slaughter their own countrymen and just innocent people all of the time, then they will burn alive in excruciating agony until they fall to ashes. Now you have the very interesting internal conflict of, do I, a selfish and once incredibly powerful wizard, sacrifice myself for the people of my original kingdom, which I am now in the process of slaughtering, even though I used to just see them as peasants? Because punishments are important. Even for the paladins that took the oaths voluntarily, there should be punishments for when they break them. This could range from having their powers taken away in full or in part, or actually suffering physical or mental damage. It might be that they can make amends and regain their powers. It might be that they are marked forever and other paladins now have the job to hunt them down and kill them. This might be a very interesting quest. The mentor of the paladin character has been branded a heretic for carrying out an aspect of his oath that also the character is only carrying out very reluctantly, and now the player character runs into the guy and has to kill him. Or, you know, he doesn't kill him and becomes hunted himself. A paladin that has broken their oath because the religion is sort of evil and is now being hunted as a heretic might be a very interesting character to explore. Also, probably save this for your grittier campaigns. And forget just having the whole thing limited to like Abrahamic style religions, where you are anointed in temples by people with flowing robes. A shaman of some tribe living in the tundra might decide to pick a warrior and make them a holy warrior of the caribou god. That's a paladin. Or possibly forgo the anointment altogether and have the character be in a tough bind, and then the deity reaches out to them and offers the paladinship. You know, like Kratos. But actually, it turns out that the deity you are serving is not in fact the deity you think you are serving. It is a trickster god disguised as some other god, and wants you to infiltrate that god's paladins for like mischief or something. Honestly, there's not even a reason why paladins always have to be like the heavy armor hunks that we always see. There's no reason why they shouldn't be a light-footed duelist, or maybe a holy archer, or a powerful battle mage. There's a lot of paladins that are being left unexplored, and personally, I find that really sad. I find that the fundamental difference between the Paladin and the Templar is that the Templar does not have access to divine magic. That doesn't necessarily mean that they have no magic at all. A sorcerer might become a Templar if they so choose. Templars make more of a profession than a class, really, and it comes with all of the cynicism that you might think. Templars do not have a constant Sky Daddy wiretap. If a Templar behaves unvirtuously, and nobody notices, or maybe there's like a conspiracy of silence around it, that's just the culture of that organization where they just don't care or they even encourage it, they keep on being a Templar. What do you mean you robbed an old lady of cabbage on the roadside? No more powers for you. Hey, I'm Danny, god of Philly, and I want you to kill all faggots. You want a lobster steak? What are you doing killing that gay guy? I told you to kill all faggots, not to kill gay guys. What, do you not know what a faggot is? What are you, from Baltimore? What has this channel come to recently? This is one of the questions that I ask myself when I can't sleep at night, which is all the time. So yeah, Templars wear the badge, but whether or not they are actually as virtuous as Paladins depends entirely on the people around them and the organization that they serve. As they are more rank and file than the holy Paladins, their reasons for being a Templar might be entirely selfish. Yeah, they might be aspiring Paladins themselves, all righteous warriors that want to do the right thing for the right religion, or they might be in it for the wealth and power. I personally prefer Templars as not being members of the clergy, but just soldiers. I mean, if you serve in the king's army, you're not automatically a blue-blooded aristocrat. There are, probably the officers are blue-blooded aristocrats, which is why there should be clergy in the Templars. It's just that most of the Templars shouldn't be clergy. Hey, maybe they're even commanded by Paladins. As for skills, probably most of them are going to be sword-swinging warriors, probably wearing medium armor and maybe a shield. But as I said, it might be more of a profession than a class. This is why I don't see this as an exclusive situation. Probably all of them know the basics of how to fight, and like the religious law a little bit, because they are, after all, Templars. But otherwise, there might be a lot of different skill sets represented there. Obviously, most of those kinds of people would be people who already had some important skill set before they joined the Templars, and not those who were in the Templars from the very beginning, and they too probably would be trained in like the basic arts of combat. A rogue has a lot of useful skills, but probably they should be able to fight with a sword. Berserkers might be very powerful, but they should learn unit tactics. Even a healer might be trained to swing a sword, even though probably they're not going to be doing much of that. Of course, all Templars probably have some level of like tactical and survival skills because they're on tour often. But otherwise, outside of strictly traditional Templars, which is something that you can very well do, this is a very good spot for having class amalgams. One variant of the Templar might be the Witch Hunter, which I can imagine a lot of Templars being trained as. Depending on the religion they follow, they may not have any magic users among them and act sort of like the wizard police, being very knowledgeable about magic, similar to how it works in Dragon Age. Or maybe they do have magic users, or are all trained in some minimal form of magic, because maybe some types of magic are seen as restricted or banned in this world and others just aren't. This would be common, probably. And probably they're also not going to be hunting exclusively witches or wizards. They're probably also going to be hunting like demons and other creatures of the night. Many Templar organizations would probably have a witch hunter wing, and because the work that they do is so dangerous, they're seen as this elite force. But at the end of the day, it's up to you. So we've been talking a lot about religion in this video, but those are not the only kinds of ideas that a warrior can represent. Champions are the living representations of certain norms, values, and ideas. Instead of religions, they serve cultures and ideologies. There was this homebrew oath for the Paladin in 5th edition called the Oath of the Common Man, which is essentially, it's a communist paladin. And I like that very much. I find that in a lot of RPG settings, ideology is just discarded. It's not discussed. It's instead replaced with religion. And of course, this is realistic. After all, in the medieval era, most ideological disputes were really theological disputes, because religion was the ideology du jour at the time. But I do like me a fantasy setting that is set in like a modernity equivalent instead of a medieval equivalent. But because we are, of course, in the middle of the throes of thinking about ideology, it's sometimes difficult to find these settings that are observed in the same way that we talk about religion in our enlightened society, where basically religion is always fair game, but ideology isn't. Also, people will look at you weird when you play a fascist high elf. Of course, we should be able to play these kinds of characters to be able to explore the ideas behind them and understand them better. But the whole playing a character that I would absolutely fucking despise if I ever met them in real life is a video topic for another day. Usually champions of medieval fantasy settings are folk heroes, but heroes of the nobility are also a thing. Unlike paladins, they do not lose any powers if they sort of break their oath and are no longer representations of these specific ideas, because their powers derive from no one else. They are their own. Of course, if it becomes known that the big hero who killed the evil vampire dragon werewolf that was harassing the village is now raping and pillaging all over the country, very quickly they will stop being a virtuous champion in the eyes of people. Unlike Templars, they're probably not going to be an incarnation of the thing that they are an incarnation of through cynicism. They have to sort of genuinely believe the things that they embody, because they have to do the things that they embody. The actions come first, the reputation comes later. Of course, that doesn't mean that they can't ever be like a really good liar that doesn't actually believe in the things that they are doing. But let's be honest, if you protect the innocent ironically, you're still protecting the innocent. Of course, in terms of skill set, if we want to go really classic, we might have a warrior fighting with a gleaming sword, preferably from a humble background, or a noble knight. But I don't think that always has to be the case. Does it really matter if you fight the bandits with like the gleaming sword, or with fireballs, or perhaps deceit and trickery? Trickster heroes are super common in all kinds of folklore. But frankly, why be a hero for the majority of people when you could also be a hero for a very exclusive group of people? There are always different subgroups and strata and cultures inside of a society that believe in different things. The wretched of the city, living in the sewers and down by the docks, they see you as their hero. The nobility sees you as a dangerous terrorist and a murderer. Conversely, the nobility may see you as the embodiment of the truth that the aristocrats have a righteous right to righteously rule the peasants. Peasants, meanwhile, see you as the boot that is stomping on them. Sure, your skill set should represent the thing you are an avatar of. Probably in a world where magic users oppress the masses, hero's not going to be a magic user. Or maybe that's exactly who they are, because they're using the weapons of the powerful against them. It's difficult to know what exactly a champion should and should not be able to do. It has to be seen as a very individual type of situation, where you have to consider what they believe in, what the people around them believe in, what they believe that person to be, and what the values of the society they are a part of are. But let's move on to the subversion part of the video. Yes, let's take all of these classes, which are traditionally confined to the fantastical, and transport them into the spaceship future. If your setting has spaceships, of course. So first, for Paladins to be really different from Templars, there will have to be magic. Maybe the magic is confined to like psi powers that a lot of science fiction settings have, but also I do like me my high fantasy magic in like a far future sci-fi setting. And then there is of course the deity, but with the way that things are often deconstructed in science fiction settings, maybe the thing that your paladin gains their power from is not an actual deity that really exists, but some other source that they have no control over. Maybe the paladin organization that gives you your powers has sort of recovered an ancient alien artifact that gives you powers when you do the certain ritual, but they will only allow people to do the ritual if they follow the rules of the organization. Organization leadership is essentially the deity now, and everyone is always happy to toe the line, because if they don't, they're going to lose their powers. Or maybe they won't, and there's constant internal schisms and wars over who gets to control the artifact. The religious aspect is necessary, ironically, when we talk about Templars. In many science fiction settings, religion and spirituality also often sometimes is just not a thing anymore. But what if we had Space ISIS? I don't see any reason why in the future there shouldn't still be religious nutjobs trying to die for their cause. Or maybe they're just the soldiers of a sort of theocratic government. And Dan Simmons' Endymion Cantos, which is this one right here, it's not as good as the Hyperion Cantos, or the Hyerion Cantos, as my specific print of the first book would have you believe it is called. In Endymion, the Catholic Church is basically an interstellar empire. And they have captains and soldiers and starships and all of those things which, as I have described them in this video, would constitute Templars. A whole new world of interesting pops up when we talk about champions. Remember when I talked about deceitful champions? Well, in sci-fi, the media is a thing. A person being spun into a propagandist icon is something that used to be extremely common and still happens to this day. Kim Jong-un is the champion of North Korea, while at the same time also being the reason why it's shit. Most celebrities are this. They are just ideas. They are people upon which hopes and dreams are projected. We do not really want to know who they are, really. In a sci-fi setting, a champion may well be a hero that champions certain ideas. Or they might be a master manipulator of the media, or even they might just be an average person who once held like a clock tower against a lot of Americans, and then Goebbels came over and said, hey, you're gonna be an icon for us, right? We're gonna make a movie, we're gonna screen it in a theater in France. It's gonna be hot shit. Thank you very much for watching this video. Do all the things, like and subscribe and share this. And also there's a new Jontron out, and I saw this yet, and there's a new Jontron out. And it was on trend. It's a Jontron. It's after 11 months, there's a new Jontron out. Holy shit. Consider supporting me on Patreon possibly, or buying some of that merch for the Christmas season. I will be looking into, maybe there's probably going to be something where you can get like off in Christmas season. In that spirit, I appreciate all of you. Go play some RPGs, come up with some new characters that you haven't thought of before, subvert a few things. Try something interesting, try something new. And see you around, cunts.